State University are digging up artifacts from a 1,000-year-old Fremont village not far from the shores of Utah Lake.
Just recently, an ancient mega quarry has been discovered in the state of Utah. For a quarry that is both humongous and never thought to have existed in the first place, it appears that this excavation site holds many secrets hidden beneath the stones. These secrets, if they are properly unveiled, don't just promise to redefine our thoughts pertaining to all we know about the capabilities of ancient civilizations, but promise to give a glimpse of their greatness at a time when machines and tools were not believed to have existed. How big is this mega quarry, and what are we to expect therein?
It's a hands-on opportunity to learn about the people who lived in Utah long before the pioneers arrived.
Join us as we journey through the rocky lands of Utah, the wonders of the Monument Valley. In a bid to uncover all of the secrets that lie hidden in the western region of the United States, it seems like archaeologists might have stumbled upon something that leaves a rather large dent in the books of history and our knowledge of nature. It's one thing to discover that the World War II intermittent camp remains at the Topaz intermittent camp, yet another to see a metallic monolith in the middle of Red Rock County. However, when we talk about a mega quarry, more than the size of a football field which no one ever thought existed for years, well, you can say it takes the concept of discovery to another level. Normally, you'd agree that quarries aren't really much of a big deal. Aside from the fact that it is possible to discover precious stones, jewels, or gold in quarries, they are merely sites for the excavation of stones for construction. We know that you are aware of all of that. Still, it is best to hold back your thoughts about this quarry. Apparently, the quarry we aim to talk about isn't just any random quarry you'd find in the United States. It's one that is both ancient and strange for its composition, and it hints at several possibilities that we weren't really certain existed. We are talking about possibilities that question our advancement in technology, culture, and others. You might even say that even though the stones have been lying there for quite a very long time, it wasn't until recently that researchers started to look at the site as a quarry. This brings us to the questions that matter. What do we know about this mega quarry, and how magnanimous are the secrets it holds? Talking about secrets yet uncovered, it seems like the state of Utah never seems to fall short. Compared to many other states in the United States, Utah is a state which is rich in archaeological, geological, and paleontological discoveries. This sets out the land as a rich repository from ancient times. And now, just like every other fascinating discovery about the place, the recently discovered mega quarry adds to the intrigue and riches the land has to offer. Narrowing the location of the quarry, you should know that it is found in Monument Valley. The said location of this valley is in between the Arizona and Utah border, a place which you can say lies at the very core of the American West. What gives this region the title of one of the most breathtaking sceneries in the United States is the red hue of the earth. For a land that was sculpted for millions of years by erosion, the color of the earth provides a view like none other, a view that you can only see in the movies. Ironically, one fun fact for you is that many Western genre movies were actually shot in this location. Some of the first movies shot in the Monument Valley include Stagecoach, My Darling Clementine, She Wore a Yellow Ribbon, and The Searchers. All of these movies were directed by John Ford, the very first director to see Monument Valley for what it truly is, a money-milking scenery for Hollywood. While we can clearly agree that spotting Monument Valley once in a while behind our screens is quite ecstatic, the truth is that the few glimpses in no way display the full magnificence of the landscape. In reality, the complete brilliance of the scenery of the Monument Valley can only be captured by the eyes therein, and we owe this view to the hard work of nature. Across the ages, nature has worked on the sandstones in the region, transforming them into the monumental landscape that we know today. As a matter of fact, you should know that the spires and buttes that we see today are composed of Navajo sandstones that go as far back as the Jurassic period, 190 million years ago. During this time, the land was covered in ordinarily desert sands quite similar to that of the current Sahara Desert. It was only as time passed that these sands started to accumulate in massive dunes. As the dunes continued to accumulate, they were buried, leading to compaction under layers of sediment. The transformation of the sand dunes into hard sandstone is a process that scientists know as lithification. In this process, additional layers of sediment pile on top of each other to create an immense pressure that compacts the sand grains. Then, The mineral-laden groundwater also percolates through the layers to play its own role by depositing agents like calcium carbonate and silica that help cement the process of forming a solid rock. Let's not forget about the role of erosion in it all. Over millions of years, wind and water have chipped away the softer surrounding rock layers, only to leave behind the more resistant sandstone buttes and mesas. The different shapes of the landscape are merely a result of the vulnerability caused by joints in the rocks. The erosion exploits the weakest region, leaving the toughest parts behind. As of today, the weathering process is still very much in play. However, the process is pretty because most of the vulnerable parts of the rocks have already eroded. On the other hand, the characteristic red hue of the sandstone that we see is due to the presence of iron oxide and rust, which stains the grains. When talking about sandstones, those that have stood tall over the years are the West Mitten Butte, East Mitten Butte, Merrick Butte, Elephant Butte, and Camel Butte. Besides these, there are a couple of other smaller buttes and mesas around the area, but they don't compare in size to the aforementioned ones in any way. Observing the two Mitten Buttes, you'd find out that they are about 6,000 feet tall, although in comparison, the West Mitten Butte is slightly taller than the East Mitten Butte by a few meters. What makes these buttes special is the fact that they appear as though carved in the shape of a mitten, hence why they are called Mitten Buttes. In terms of their position, the West Mitten Butte is positioned to the left when viewed from the main lookout point, with the thumb end of the mitten extending eastward. In contrast, the East Mitten Butte is located to the right, with its thumb pointing westward. The mirrored formation is one of those things that adds to the visual appeal of the buttes. That's not all, though. As the sun dips below the horizon, there's one enchanting phenomenon which occurs at Monument Valley that very few people know about. When the sun is low in the sky, the West Mitten Butte casts a long, elegant shadow that stretches across the valley floor, often reaching the base of the East Mitten Butte. What this does is create a striking visual effect where the two buttes appear to be connected by a dark silhouette. Just like it is with shadows, it takes a while for the shadows to align perfectly. However, when it does, you definitely need to be there to witness this wonder yourself. Alongside the West and East Mitten Buttes lies the Merrick Butte. This butte joins with the Mitten Buttes to form a perfect triangle in the middle of the valley. It's true that it doesn't look like the other two, but it certainly rises to an elevation almost similar to the other two Mitten Buttes. Unlike the other Mittens, the Merrick Butte was named after Jack Merrick as an honorary measure for his contributions as a prospector who explored the Monument Valley in the late 1800s. You can say he and his partner Harry Goulding were the ones who helped not just map the region, but to bring it to the attention of the world, and we do thank them for that. If they hadn't mapped out Monument Valley, we just might not have discovered all that lies within. Eventually, Jack's creation of awareness led to several expeditions, such as the discovery of the 450-foot sandstone formation known as the Totem Pole. Just as its name implies, the totem pole is a sandstone that has the shape of a totem pole and was created by the indigenous people of the Pacific Northwest. As a matter of fact, it was discovered by a trader known as Harry Goulding. He and his wife aided Jack in his mission to create awareness about the land before it had movie producers scouring every nook and cranny to shoot a film. After the hectic 1957 expedition that had people climbing to reach the summit of the pole, a new, less hectic route was discovered. It's called Never Never Land. If you are one that's conversant with fictional stories, you'd notice that the name has a similarity to that of Neverland in Peter Pan's story. Well, it's possible that the person who named the route might have gotten their inspiration from the story. This is totally understandable considering the journey through the route. The road through Never Never Land is filled with spires, hidden canyons, and arches that appear not to be of this world, but from a magical realm. You can say the mystery behind the route was stirred up due to the odd shapes and sizes of these features. As brilliant and strange as each and every piece of sandstone in the area is, they all come together to form the Monument Valley. No doubt, when we are talking about the places where adventurers can have premium fun in Utah, the Monument Valley makes the top 5 of the list. From high cliffs to odd-looking landscapes with several sandstones all over the place, there's enough to see and enough ways to have fun. However, the idea is not to be carried away. In a vast and uncharted area like Monument Valley, the best way to ensure a safe and enjoyable experience is to seek the guidance of the park's guide. These guides, familiar with every detail of the valley, not only provide direction, but also educate visitors about the rich history and geological features of the area, ensuring you are well informed and secure. However, when it comes to knowledge, even the park's guide could only know so much. One of those details which might elude even park guides is the possible history behind the ancient mega quarry in the valley. For a discovery that is still a big mystery, only very few can make out anything of the quarries. And in a couple of minutes, you are about to be one of those few. Having given you a broader view of the Monument Valley, we are now taking you up north of the region where the mega quarry resides. In the course of this video, we get to demystify a whole lot of theories together, talk about the possible roles of the natives in the development of the quarry, and also talk about the nature of stones found there. So, what's there to know about this ancient quarry that made headlines? Sit tight. We just barely began our journey in this interesting discovery, the ancient mega quarry, residing in plain sight. When talking about the ancient mega quarry that is located at the border of Utah and Arizona, you should know that it was only recently that researchers and archaeologists started to look at the site as a possible ancient quarry. As a matter of fact, the proposed quarry has been around for ages and was most likely discovered by the very first explorers of the 19th century as one of those natural monuments of nature. However, new studies are starting to show that there might be more to the site than meets the eye. You might ask, what's really the big deal with this place? In summary, you can say, there is quite a lot that we might have failed to observe about this place in the past years. One such thing that we have failed to pay close attention to is the rocks in this region. The land is filled with several colossal rocks measuring at least 21 feet and weighing around 670 tons. However, that's not what makes them exceptionally unique. What makes these rocks the center of discussion amongst archaeologists is the fact that regardless of their large size, they're perfectly carved out in square and rectangular shapes. When we talk about perfection in this case, we are talking about blocks with an exact 90-degree angle peculiar to those of squares and rectangle blocks used for construction. Now, knowing about this detail, you'd agree that something that is precise calls for attention. Earlier on, the explorers who discovered the strange site looked at the blocks in the region as one of those artistic products of nature. This conclusion even led them to pitch the stones in almost the same category as the buttes and other sandstone formations. This is one of the reasons why there is no report on a quarry in Monument Valley. However, thanks to the research of many archaeologists around the world, the notion is changing. In a bit, you will come to realize that the earlier conclusion might have been a hasty one. Firstly, let's start by considering nature's engineering capabilities. Looking at how nature works, you'd agree that the forces that oversee the Earth have created quite a lot of marvelous creations since the beginning of time. From the trees rooted in the earth to the animals and several life forms all within the planet, everything is just right and perfect, yet still flawed perfectly in their own way. Apparently, while nature has done magnificently well in creation, there is one attribute in particular that it has been unable to get completely right, and that's a perfect symmetry. Looking all around you, you'd agree that for most of nature's creation, there's rarely anything living that is created in a straight line. Even though it's possible to see things that are invariant, the law pointing to straightness is simply not applicable in nature. Instead, objects that have to do with straight lines and perfect angles are more of a human-invented concept. Because this is a well-known fact, the nature and history of the stones in the site at Monument Valley beg for reasons. Could it be that nature is finally able to produce a perfect straight block stone of such precision? It's very unlikely. The process of rock or stone formation has been overseen by complex geological forces for millions of years, and the interplay of these forces rarely results in the formation of straight blocks. As a matter of fact, igneous rocks are formed through the cooling and solidification of magma, the compaction and cementation of sediments, and the transformation of existing rock types under pressure and heat. Each of these processes is influenced by a series of factors such as temperature fluctuations, pressure variations, chemical interactions, and tectonic movements. As magma cools, it crystallizes in irregular patterns, creating complex interlocking structures which are evidently far from being straight. Almost the same thing goes for sedimentary rocks. The sandstones at Monument Valley, which happens to be a typical example of a sedimentary rock comprising sandstone, siltstone, and shale, are formed from the deposition of mineral and organic particles by rivers, winds, and oceans. After the deposits stack up to form layers, erosion sets in too. sculpt these formations, wearing down edges and creating a rounded, jagged surface still nowhere close to being straight. In general, it's clear that there's no uniformity whatsoever. However, we can't say the same for the stones at Monument Valley. The discovered 21-foot stones are uniform, making it appear as though they were cut by some sophisticated machine back in the years. While that might be the case, a whole other thing doesn't seem to add up. For starters, we are talking about block stones measuring 21 feet and weighing 670 tons. Clearly, they aren't just humongous, they are going to be pretty heavy. Then consider the age of the said stones. Each of these stones is said to date back to the Paleozoic and Mesozoic eras millions of years ago. So how is it that they were cut with such precision and accuracy? This adds to the intrigue of the story. All these while, there have been several speculations as to the possibility that ancient civilizations possessed way more advanced technology and machinery than we do. While many researchers who posited this theory have long been in doubt, the idea of these stones being cut by people of the ancient era is starting to complete the picture of what ancient civilization looked like. If truly it was the ancient civilization that cut these stones, it means that they possessed heavy and large cutting types of machinery. Not just that, the empty giant Lego-looking spaces around the quarry, which hints at a missing stone, also depict that they also had advanced lever pulley systems to transport the blocks. No one can really tell how advanced these pieces of machinery were at the time. It is just that the foremen who walked this earth might not have all been clueless savages. Interestingly, Utah isn't the only place where these perfect stones have been found. There are also similar block stones right in Baalbek, Lebanon. These stones, which are popularly called the Stone of the Pregnant Woman, are regarded as the biggest block stones ever quarried by a man. As a matter of fact, the megaliths weigh over 1,000 tons each and measure around 71 feet in length and 16 feet in width, while the height of the blocks majorly falls between 12 to 13 feet. Aside from being the large block stones, the only difference that the stones of Baalbek have with the stones of Utah is the fact that the stones of Baalbek have something to show for them. Apparently, the Baalbek is an ancient city in Lebanon where the Romans once resided, and it has got a couple of Roman temple complexes. The very stones quarried in the region were used to construct these ancient buildings. However, the same can't be said for the stones in Utah. Does that really rule off the possibility that there was an ancient civilization in play? Definitely not. It's true that the possibility of moving such large, heavy stones might have seemed undoable at the time. However, we have the Roman temples in Baalbek to show that in the midst of these impossibilities, they were able to find a way. Not just looking at the tools now, it is possible that they might have transported the stones using the sheer force of laborers or wooden rollers. Ropes might have also played a role in dragging them to the site. Whichever it was, it happened. In light of the events in this video, it is now clear that it is possible that the site in Utah is a quarry. However, what can we say about the ancient civilization that resided there? There are many possibilities. Sit tight as we hear directly from the natives of the land, the Navajos, the first people to walk the lands of Utah. Amidst the search for answers pertaining to the strange site at Monument Valley, you can say there have been a lot of speculations about the people who once resided in Utah. Some researchers say that it was either the Phoenicians, Greeks, or possibly the Romans. It would have been easy to go with any of these options. After all, from past records, they are the ones who were capable of building impressive temples and structures on study foundations using giant block stones. However, the issue is that there's still no history showing that they once walked the land of America. Instead, the sole people closest to the first men to walk the state of Utah are the Navajos. The Navajo Nation is regarded as the largest Native American tribe in the United States, and its reach is spread across New Mexico, Arizona, and Utah. As a matter of fact, the Dean, as they call themselves, have a rich cultural heritage that dates back centuries. They are known for their high artistry in weaving, silversmithing, and sand painting. Besides these skills, what sets them apart is their high-quality textiles. Their blankets, coats, and rugs are well known all across the United States and beyond, posing as one of the major trades of the people. You should definitely look out for them. In all, even though we can affirm that the Navajos have long been the inhabitants of Utah, we can't pitch them at the same time and age as the stones in the quarry. Apparently, the stones long existed before the Navajo became a full-fledged tribe. Having met the stones when they claimed the land for their own, the Navajos believed that the stones were quarried by the holy people. Who are these holy people? The holy people are supernatural beings that are highly revered by the Navajo people. The Navajos believe that these beings not only guided them but nurtured them since the creation of time. When you ask a Navajo about the therein, they will tell you that they taught their people how to live in harmony and flourish amongst themselves. Furthermore, they are most likely going to point at the entities as those who reside in the spiritual realm, only to make their appearance in the physical world in times of rituals, ceremonies, and daily practices. Some of the popular figures among the holy people include the Changing Woman, Sun Bearer, and Spider Woman. It's said that each and every one of these deities has the roles they play in the community and seasons when they make an appearance. You can say that just like the tales of the holy people are deeply intertwined with the culture of the Navajo people, there are a couple of legends and myths surrounding them. And this one that has to do with them quarrying a land might be one of them. The truth is, no one truly would easily accept the fact that gods came to carve out large block stones from the earth. Even if they did, what could they possibly be used for? The reply from the Navajos, even though you'll say it aligns with their belief, doesn't really pass for factual proof. Hence, it's one of those stories that could easily pass for a myth or legend in Utah. Aside from deities quarrying the land, our next bet at which civilization quarried the site is the Vikings during their exploration of North America. At around 1000 AD, the Vikings, led by Leif Erikson, established a temporary settlement at L'Anse aux Meadows in Newfoundland, Canada. The theory behind their exploration considers whether a group of them might have moved to Utah in search of a new settlement at the time. If that was the case, there is a likelihood that they were involved, or at least they know something about the strange mega quarry sitting in the middle of Monument Valley. Still, this theory contradicts itself in a way. Apparently, the Vikings weren't known for building stone houses. They preferred homes built from turf, wood, and other readily available materials. It was only in a few places in Scotland that Vikings used stones to build. That said, the odds telling that they are involved are almost non-existent, hence leaving the history behind the mega quarry in Utah a mystery still. While we are at it, let's not leave out the Egyptians from this mystery. Over the years, there have been several whispers hinting at the arrival of the Egyptians in America long before Columbus. Even though these rumors are yet to be confirmed, a lot of artifacts and clues are still being discovered in the US to prove the fact. Looking at the chronicles of history, you'd agree that the Egyptians are one of the top competitors in terms of ancient buildings. And yes, they did use massive block stones like the Romans and Greeks as well. That said, if it is true they made their way into the country, they most likely would be the ones behind the development of the mega quarry in Utah. All in all, whichever civilization we are pointing fingers at, this discovery is one that is both loud and daunting. And it sure is bound to reconfigure our mindset of what prehistoric times were truly like. The knowledge that a certain ancient civilization had the capability of quarrying an oddly perfect large number of stones would mean that we aren't really as advanced in technology as our ancestors thought. And that will call for the revision of the history books in general, uncovering ancient tools and techniques. As we explore the mystery of the ancient mega quarry in Monument Valley, a fascinating question arises. What tools and techniques did these ancient people use to achieve such precise stone cutting? The discovery of the perfectly shaped stones challenges our understanding of what ancient civilizations were capable of and suggests they might have had access to advanced technology. The puzzle of ancient stonework. The precision of the stone blocks found in Monument Valley is astounding. Measuring 21 feet and weighing around 670 tons, these blocks are cut with exact 90-degree angles, resembling the precision we see in modern construction. This level of accuracy is surprising, given that these stones date back millions of years, long before the advent of sophisticated machinery. So how did they do it? One theory is that ancient builders used harder stones, such as flint or quartz, to carve the blocks. Flint, known for its sharpness and durability, could have been fashioned into chisels or hammers to shape the sandstone. Another possibility is the use of abrasive techniques. By combining sand or other gritty materials with water, ancient workers might have slowly ground down the stone surfaces to achieve the desired shapes. Ingenious methods. Beyond simple tools, there is evidence that these ancient people might have employed more sophisticated methods. They may have used levers, pulleys, and even primitive cranes to move and position the massive stone blocks. This theory is supported by the smooth surfaces on the stones, suggesting they were not only cut, but also transported over significant distances. Imagine the ingenuity required to move such heavy stones without modern machinery. Another intriguing possibility is the use of wooden rollers and ropes. By placing the blocks on wooden logs and rolling them across the terrain, ancient workers could have moved the stones with relative ease. Ropes made from natural fibers could have been used to drag the stones into place, relying on sheer human strength and coordination. Lost knowledge. The idea that ancient civilizations had access to advanced technology isn't new. Throughout history, we've seen many examples of lost knowledge and techniques that were once common but later forgotten. The construction of the pyramids in Egypt, the megalithic structures of Stonehenge, and the intricate stonework of Machu Picchu all suggest that ancient builders had skills that have since been lost. In the case of the Monument Valley Quarry, it's possible that the techniques and tools used were part of a specialized knowledge passed down through generations, but eventually lost or abandoned. Changes in society, natural disasters, or shifts in cultural practices could have led to this knowledge being forgotten over time. Comparisons with other ancient sites. Interestingly, Utah isn't the only place where such precise stonework has been found. Similar massive stone blocks exist in Baalbek, Lebanon, known as the Stone of the Pregnant Woman. These stones, weighing over 1,000 tons each, were used to construct ancient Roman temples. The techniques used to quarry and transport these stones remain a mystery, much like those in Monument Valley. The similarities between these sites suggest that ancient civilizations around the world may have had more in common than we realize. They might have shared knowledge or independently developed similar techniques for stone cutting and construction. This raises exciting possibilities about the interconnectedness of ancient peoples and their technological capabilities. Rethinking ancient civilizations. The discovery of the Monument Valley Quarry challenges our assumptions about ancient civilizations. It suggests they were far more advanced than we typically give them credit for. If ancient builders could quarry and transport such massive stones with precision, what other technological feats were they capable of? This revelation could lead to a significant revision of our history books and a deeper appreciation for the ingenuity of our ancestors. As we continue to investigate this remarkable site, we are reminded that history is full of surprises. The more we uncover, the more we realize how much we still have to learn about the capabilities and achievements of ancient civilizations. The mystery of the Monument Valley Quarry is a testament to human ingenuity and the enduring quest for knowledge. Having learned all there is about this mysterious site, what are your thoughts about there being a supposed ancient mega quarry in the state of Utah? Do you find the details factual enough? We'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments section. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. Also, feel free to check other mind-blowing discoveries. Till some other time, bye for now.